Driving Success, a Fleet Advantage podcast, a show where we bring you expert insights and the latest trends going on in fleet management and transportation. I'm your host, Tracy Derival, and on today's episode, we are excited to talk about a major milestone for our company. For the very first time, our team will be heading to the 2024 International Automobile Exhibition, better known as the IAA Transportation Show, which is happening in Hannover, Germany, one of the world's largest transportation conferences. And we will be joining the global conversation on the future of transportation. So we are excited to bring back a special guest to the podcast, Brian Antonellis, who is our Senior VP of our Fleet Operations, and he will be joining us and providing a preview of what's to come. Let's start the episode. Hi, Brian. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am super excited to have you back on the podcast and for today's conversation about the upcoming IAA 2024 Transportation Show. But before we begin, can you just share with our audience, give a little refresher on your role here at FA and also your background within the transportation industry?
Sure. Thanks for having me back, Tracy. It's been a few months. I've spent the last 20 years of my life working in transportation for some of the largest fleets in the U.S. Here at Fleet Advantage, I'm the Senior Vice President of Fleet Operations. For us, that means making sure that we spec the truck correctly, making sure that we buy the truck correctly, supporting our customers through the life cycle of the truck, and at the end of life, making sure that we off-lease the truck.
Okay, that's great. So now let's dive into all of the hot topics and the industry trends that we can expect at IAA. So first off, can you just share with us what is IAA and why is it important for Fleet Advantage to participate?
Well, I think it's important for Fleet Advantage to participate because it's the largest trucking conference in the world. It happens every 2 years in Germany, and it really brings together the engine manufacturers, the truck OEMs, and they show off all their new technology. And really, it helps us understand what's going to be available for us to tap into over the next several years as we try to navigate the 2027 emissions changes and regulations that are coming and how we help our customers prepare strategies.
All right. Just to piggyback off of that, I had the chance to look at the agenda, and it looks like there seems to be a lot of interest in like EV charging infrastructure, sustainable transport, and hydrogen. So what are some of the sessions at IAA that you are particularly excited about?
I don't know if I can pick just one. The overall concept is what I'm excited about. So we have these 2027 regulations that are coming. And here in the U.S., we've been able to put in, a couple thousand EV trucks, but we're very, very new at it. We haven't really had a large rollout of CNG. Hydrogen is just getting off the ground. But over in Europe, they're a little bit ahead of us. To be able to go over there and see how some other countries and companies are tackling this and to see some projects that are a little bit more mature than we have here and get some of the learnings. What's worked? What hasn't worked? Why? What's not just the infrastructure that the company needs, but what's the national infrastructure that the grid needs to be able to support some of these initiatives?
Now, why do you think the timing of discussing these kind of topics, why do you think is so important?
Well, it's perfect timing. So we all know, I've mentioned it a couple times here, in 2027, we have these regulatory changes. So last time I was on here with you, we talked about carb pre-buy and how we were really going to be thinking about this as a 3-year cycle. So you have to plan for 2024, 2025, 2026, ultimately to put yourself in great position in 2027. So that, one, you can limit the cost of the equipment, but also you can make sure that you're learning the new emission systems at a manageable rate, right?
Right.
When you're putting together those 3 and 4 year plans, EV and alternative fuels have to be part of it. So if you operate in a carb state today, the regulation that goes into effect next year is if you want to buy 3 diesels, you have to buy 1 EV. So this alternative fuels is coming. We're all going to feel it. Some of us don't think because you may be in a Midwestern state and it hasn't affected you. It will over time. So at Fleet Advantage, we want to be the experts in making sure that we understand the technology. We understand how it pans out after a few years. We want to make sure that we understand what the infrastructure looks like and making sure that we're out in front of this, going to the most up-to-date conferences to make sure that we understand everything that's going on in the industry is all to help our customers make that transition, help them set their 3 to 5 year purchasing plans and be successful.
Now, to piggyback off what you were touching on when it comes to Europe being ahead, we did recently conduct a industry survey. And one of the questions that we did ask was whether industry leaders feel like Europe is ahead of the US as far as like the heavy duty trucking, transportation, and logistics. So can you share some of the responses and what are your thoughts on them?
Sure. So yeah, it was a little bit interesting, kind of what we would expect. But 48% said yes, Europe is ahead of the US. 39% said they were unsure, and 13% said no. And so two numbers that stick out to me is the vast majority believe that Europe is ahead. And that makes sense because when you look at the way the European Union is made up, and they've each kind of adopted a path. Where here in the US, we've done some hydrogen, some CNG, and a couple thousand EVs. But in Europe, there are a few more EV projects and some CNG projects that they've sort of defined where they're going. So they've been mature and they've been running out there for 3, 5, 6 years, and they're almost going into their second set of vehicles. The unsure scares me a little bit, right? So that means that they're not quite sure what's happening and they probably need some more knowledge. And then 13% say no. There are some companies that have done a wonderful job picking up and setting their strategy for the next 5 years. And they already understand how they're going to wrap their alternative fuel into their traditional diesel purchasing plan. So, overall, 48% said they're ahead. And you know what? That's why we want to go there. We want to see some of this technology. We want to hear what's coming out. We want to hear some of their experiences and bring them back here and help educate our customers.
Exactly. Now, just to wrap everything on up, do you think you can give our listeners and viewers just a little teaser of the exciting offering that we will be unveiling at IAA?
Well, I can give you a little bit. So what we just talked about was moving to alternative fuels and weaving that into your diesel purchases over the next 3, 4, 5 years is hard. But here at Fleet Advantage, we want to make sure that we give our customers the flexibility to make that transition when it's right for them. And I think we're going to be able to share some exciting news that we can make this a little bit easier. We can help them move to a world with alternative fuels. We can blend it with their existing diesel purchases over the next 5 years. And I think some of our customers will look back and say, hey, I think that's an opportunity I want to take advantage of.
Exactly. Well, I'm excited for what's to come. But again, Brian, we just want to say thank you so much for coming on the show today and sharing some really valuable information on the IAA Transportation Show and also the path of alternative fuels for the future of transportation fleets.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me back.
As we wrap up today's episode, I feel really excited about going into our first international show and seeing what's next for transportation fleet. So we will be sharing live updates, insights, and all the behind the scenes actions from IAA. So please stay tuned. Make sure to check out our latest blog for a rundown of all of the top industry events that we will be attending this September. So if you enjoyed today's show, please share, like, and leave a review while you're at it. You can listen to this episode on your favorite podcast platforms such as Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Apple Podcasts. You can watch this episode on our social media platforms such as YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. Until next time, let's continue to drive solutions together.